So here's my theory. I think Hollywood came to 20th Century Fox and said, hey, we've been having a pretty good track record of superhero movies lately, and you made a really good one last year. You want to make another one? And 20th Century Fox just pretty much responded with, a good track record? Well then I guess it's clobbering time. So Fantastic Four is the newest reboot of the Fantastic Four film series. It's directed by Josh Trank and stars Miles Teller, Michael B. Jordan, Kate Mara, and Jamie Bell. It is once again an origin story for the Fantastic Four, and without spoiling anything, the premise is that you have Reed Richards, who is a really smart 18-year-old kid who has just cracked the code for interdimensional travel. He then uses this to travel with a group of people to another dimension. However, in this dimension, an accident happens and they end up getting superpowers, and that's all I'm going to say. Though they did change up the story for the Fantastic Four, such as the fact that in this movie they're pretty young, they're only like 18, when in the comics they're actually middle-aged. The fact that Johnny and Sue Storm aren't biological brother and sister in this film. The fact that in this film it's interdimensional travel that gives them their powers, when in the comic they went into space and radiation gave it to them. But I was willing to get over that as long as the film was good, and oh boy is this film terrible. This film once again shows that apparently nobody can make a good Fantastic Four movie. They've made 4 of these now, and each one has been really bad, with this one being one of the worst. It's boring, it's lazy, it's cliched, it's not fun, it's actually pretty annoying at times. It just is bad. First and foremost, one of the most annoying things about this movie was the cast and its characters. The cast for this film is great. You have Miles Teller, who has just come off an Academy Award-winning film for Whiplash. You have Kate Mara, who has done a great role in House of Cards and is a great actress. And you have Michael B. Jordan, who has come out of Fruitvale Station, a really great movie, and somehow each of them just is average in this film. None of them stand out. They are completely expendable throughout this entire film. None of them bring anything new to the table. They're average. They're not bad. I'm not saying that they're bad, but they are just average, and it's not what I was expecting from such a stellar cast. Also, the characters themselves in this movie, I'm sorry, but these characters seriously do suck. These characters are not relatable to at all. You never really connect to any of them, and each of the main characters has a trait to them that is very dislikable. One of them is snobby, a couple of them are jerks, and one of them is just lame. Only 2 out of the 4 of them are smart, which makes me wonder why they're even a part of the Fantastic Four, because it doesn't make any sense. Also, speaking of smart, is the writing smart for this movie? Maybe that could help save it. No, the writing for this movie is pretty much horrendous. You have dumb cliched lines. None of the lines are funny when they try to be. The smart writing is there for like a little bit, but then it goes from being smart to just being boring. The only line that's really memorable from this movie is, it's clobbering time, and that's only because it's said in every Fantastic Four movie, because it's said in pretty much every Fantastic Four comic, because it's the Thing's catchphrase, and I'm okay with that, but when it's the only memorable line, you know you have a problem. And when I say the writing's boring, I don't mean that some of the writing's boring and some of the writing is interesting and fun. I mean that pretty much except for about 20 minutes of this film, the film is so boring. Literally, if I had been sitting in my couch at home, I would have fallen asleep while watching this movie. They spend so much time trying to build up the plot line for this film that when they actually reach the action scenes that people are waiting for, they're short, they're dumb, they're not that entertaining, and they just abruptly end, and you're sitting there wanting more, and that's not something you should want from a superhero movie. Another main reason why the action scenes in this film are so lame is because the main villain they're fighting against is really lame. Dr. Doom is a cool villain from the comics. I like him from the comics, but in this film, he is terrible. He's a one-dimensional character you don't care about. And characters like Ultron from Avengers Age of Ultron or Magneto from the X-Men films, you actually do like their character. Though they may be evil, there's interesting parts about them, there's things that you do actually like about them, and overall they're cool, but Dr. Doom in this film is just dumb and boring. He's an overpowered villain. There's nothing interesting about him. There's never a point where you think, oh, that's pretty cool about him. Everything about him is just dumb and one-dimensional. Even the editing and special effects in this film aren't good. Sure, the cinematography looks good at most times, but the problem is that they end scenes abruptly. They just pretty much just, the end of sentence, done. There's no time between it. It's just end of sentence, start of new scene, a new sentence, a new completely different thing they're talking about. It's really quite annoying when you're trying to take in a scene that just happened and then they just immediately go into the next scene with no time to actually think about what just happened. Also, the CGI in this film is pretty awful. It looks like something out of the 1990s, and not like Terminator 2 1990 CGI. No, I mean like really, really bad 1990 CGI. None of the scenes that use CGI in this film looked really cool. They actually looked pretty lame, and some of the CGI was just kind of dumb. I'm sorry to say, but the Fantastic Four movie has no redeemable point to it. It's uneventful through most of it, and when an action scene does actually come up, it's short-lived and it abruptly ends and it leaves you wanting more. It's dumb writing, the characters aren't fully developed, the villain is so lame, the cinematography, the editing, and the CGI aren't that great, especially the CGI, which is actually pretty awful. There seriously is a terrible, terrible movie. I really do not enjoy found footage movies, and I really did not like The Gallows this year. And I really enjoy superhero movies. And when you make a superhero movie worse than a found footage movie, you know you've made a really, really bad movie. And I'm giving The Fantastic Four 0 stars. This film ruined my night. This entire night is just ruined now because all I can think about is how bad that film was. If you like the Fantastic Four, do not go watch this movie at all. Don't ever even think about it. It's not worth your money. I paid like $5 to go watch it. I wish I had that $5 with me right now. So guys, since I don't want you to go see Fantastic Four, what is the worst superhero movie you've ever seen? Let me know below what you think it is. This is definitely one of the worst I've seen in a really long time. As always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.